Hey, aloha, and welcome to the video. So in this video I'm going to be making a crysknife. So what you see here is the first crysknife inspired by the new Dune movies that I made. I made it with a marlin bill, which is more cylindrical, and koawood, and you can see it shattered. So I dropped it on the ground and it shattered right along the seams of where the engraves were. So for this next crysknife, I'm going to be basing it off a combination of stuff. It's going to be based off the new Dune movies, old Dune movies, plus just some of my own design features. And then instead of a marlin bill, which is more cylindrical, I'm going to be using this swordfish bill, which is a lot more flat. And it does have this kind of cool curvature, which on the newer Dune movies, they kind of have a concave curve on the edge. And so I wanted to use that as well. I thought that'd be a cool design feature. The first steps here are going to be hollowing out the center section here, and then I'm going to be using a really light or low viscous epoxy that'll seep into all of the caverns and cracks and holes. The swordfish bills, same as marlin bills, they're actually mostly hollow. They do have a lattice structure inside, but there's lots of gaps and holes, and so the epoxy will help fill those in and give the entire piece a lot of structural integrity. And so I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. Then I can cut off the end and get it ready for overall design and implementation. I wasn't entirely sure how I wanted to affix this to the handle. When looking at the original Dune crysknives, which is what you see here, as well as some of the older Dune movies, and just based off of what I've seen with natural materials and how things are affixed, what I kind of decided to do is I was going to make the entire blade and handle out of the swordfish bill, and then the koawood would make as a wrap that went around the outer edges, so you'd still be able to see the swordfish bill. It's just the part that goes against your palm and your fingers would have that koa with it, so it'd make it larger, make it easier to hold on to. And so the first step is I cut out the general shape of the blade, the general shape of the handle, and then I'm going to be transferring the handle onto the koawood so that I have the design cut out for what I need on the koawood. So there's just a little bit of back and forth to shape the handle, cut out the koa, and glue everything together. One thing that I noticed as I was getting ready to glue up was that some of the sections here still had some holes, the sections in between bone, and so I wanted to fill those in. What I did is I mixed some shavings from the piece itself, that white dust that's just from sanding down the swordfish bill, and then I'm using CA glue mixed with that, and so that'll hopefully help seal it in as well as blend nicely with the rest of the look and make everything nice and solid, so that when I go to shape, I'm not left with any gaps and I could make some nice clean edge work with that. Now I used wood shavings mixed with epoxy to glue this into place. I did that to try to hide the gaps as well as make the swordfish bill blend better with the handle material. And then I let that sit for about a day. I think it might have been 2 days just because I was busy working on other projects. And now I'm back in the workshop shaping. There's a couple holes here and there, so I'm just using some wood shavings, some sawdust mixed with CA glue. That kind of fills in those tiny little gaps that might have gotten missed. But for the most part, I can start shaping now on the general piece. There isn't too much shaping, there is a little bit of shaping. I want to get the rough shape of the handle before I start doing any of the sanding work, and I also want to grind down the top layer of the actual blade itself. While I was shaping on the piece though, as I started to work on it, I had an idea about darkening up the blade. So when you looked at the original photos of the Crysknife, so Crysknife is made from a tooth of the sandworm, and so part of that tooth is unfinished that goes into the handle, and it's darker, it's rougher, it's not as finished, and then the blade itself is nice and smooth and finished. And so the idea I had was to burn a section, and so that's what I'm doing with this smaller swordfish bill I have here. I'm just kind of testing with the way that it looks, and I actually really liked the way that it darkened up that blade. And so that is exactly what I'm going to do here. So I'm just cleaning up first before I attempt to burn the swordfish bill and the surrounding koawood. I'm going to clean up all of this excess epoxy and glue. That way none of that melts or burns or lets off too much fumes. Just kind of clean that up, and then I can burn the piece with the torch and continue to sand down and work on the piece. As of this point in time, I was actually getting close to wrapping it up, but I felt like something was missing. It just didn't feel complete. So what I ended up deciding to do is I was going to put some inlays, which isn't, you don't find inlays really on the Dune Crysknives that you see in the movies, but that fits my style. I occasionally I'll put in pearl or wood inlays into the pieces that I make so they have a contrast. And so that's what I decided to do here. Now you'll notice as I'm doing an inlay rather than having that peg go all the way through, the easier thing would be for that peg to go all the way through, but that would damage the structural integrity of the piece. I didn't want the marlin bill to get too weak, so I probably won't be testing this piece, spoiler alert. But if I did test it, I still want it to have some structural integrity. I want it to be able to strike and not just snap in two. And so if I were to drill a hole all the way through and put in a wooden peg, it'd probably just snap. There wouldn't be enough material there. And so by putting just a small inlay, I still have quite a bit of that structure lying underneath. Now I actually made a mistake here on this piece, which I didn't notice until I started to burn that second inlay. The mistake that I made is the peg, I didn't end up pushing it all the way into the inlay, and so as I went to burn it, I was burning away the inlay. And you can kind of see there how it's a little bit damaged. Because I was burning away part of it, what I tried to do was fill in that gap with sawdust, and then I sealed the sawdust with epoxy, or not epoxy, with the CA glue, and then I was going to burn that again. My thinking was that the sawdust, once burnt, would just go black, and it would just blend in with the rest of the dot, but that's exactly not what happened. What ended up happening was, as I was burning the dot, it would burn the CA glue away too, and it was just more and more of it was disappearing, and I realized I just need to remove it. And so first I tried to pop it out with just this little needle that I use all the time, but that wasn't going to work, and so I very carefully drilled out that section and then made a new plug and went ahead and put that in, cut it down, sanded it, and got it ready for oiling. Oh man, did this piece oil up absolutely beautifully. For being such a simple piece, oh, it was just absolutely gorgeous. I love the contrast in colors, the way that the burnt coal wood, the burnt swordfish bill, the contrast on the burnt dot mixed with the bill. Just an absolutely gorgeous piece. I love the way that this oiled up. Definitely one of my favorite pieces with regards to just how simple it looks. And then here is the finished or final piece. Man, this is awesome. I love it. I think I like it better than the first one. The first one is a little bit more true to the newer Dune movies, but this one feels more authentic to me based off the material. If you were making a handheld sword or knife, dagger using natural material, I feel like this would be potentially the direction you take it, and you can kind of see that concave edge on the blade. Let me know in the comments below what you think, if you like it, if you don't like it, if you think I ruined it. But this was awesome. This was a ton of fun to work on. Definitely one of my favorite projects recently, just because I love the movies and the story, and so being able to work on a second one of these that I definitely won't be breaking this time was an absolute pleasure. Well, let me know what you think, if you like it, if you don't like it. Mahalo nui for everyone that follows along, and I'll see you next time. Aloha.